What's up guys, welcome to the second video in my Isotope Trash 2 mini-series type do-dealy thing. Yeah, this time it's going to be all about the trash setting, the distortion part of the plugin. If you missed the first video, we basically just had a look at the filters. We basically set up a bit of a filter, kind of like a pre-processing filter before the distortion. Basically just kind of cleaning up the sample we're using and just kind of giving it a bit of interest with a bit of envelope filter action as well, so it gives it a little bit of subtle movement. And yeah, all ready for kind of distortion, kind of saturation. Call it what you like. You can call it exciting, you can call it adding warmth, distortion, saturation, adding harmonics. It's all the same shit, and it's all done in the trash setting. Boing. Probably want to turn it on. So yeah, we did what we normally, kind of the main point of having the filter before the distortion, and that is to kind of clean up the original sound. That's normally what you'd use it for. Sometimes you can kind of shape the tonality a bit more, but most of the time when I filter before distortion, it's just to clean up a shitty sample really, or to kind of, yeah, you can use it whatever you like, but that's what we did just now. Anyway, enough jibber jabber, let's do some distortion. So, the trash module. As you see, there's a lot of buttons and shit. The best thing to do is to just ignore them all and focus on one at a time. And then once you understand that one, figure out something else and just kind of do it that way. Because it's easy to get overwhelmed with the kind of the mad potential you can do with this thing. So the best thing to do, just start off nice and simple. So turn it on. Good shit. And then what do you do? So you got two stages for a start. Two stages of distortion. Best just leave it as one to get going. Actually, I should probably give you a quick example of what the sound we're working with is. So yeah, this is what we kind of ended up with after the last video. Cool shit. Anyway, right, distortion. So you got all these kind of distortion settings. So all these kind of categories. You've got distort, drive, multi fuzz, heavy, retro, saturate. Cool. And then you've got all these different settings, and each one, if you have a look in this little square window bit, shows you kind of what the distortion is doing. So what the distortion is doing is basically taking the waveform and then kind of manipulating it, kind of morphing it, kind of shaping it, and in the process of that, it adds in kind of harmonics, adds in more character. So that's the best way to think of distortion. It's adding in character, it's adding in interest. And if you do it subtly, it's normally called kind of saturation or warmth, or kind of subtle interest. Or if you do it kind of crazy over the top, it becomes its whole new thing, like Skrillexy, noisy, dubsteppy, just aggressive kind of distorted sounds. It becomes a new entity. So there's lots of different ways of doing distortion, and you can do all of it just by choosing a relevant setting and kind of playing with the faders. So each of these categories has tons of different options. It's one of the best parts about this trash setting is just how many ways you can get going with it. But then on top of that, you can kind of draw in your own curves on top of that to literally create any curve that's kind of conceivable. Personally, I'd ignore all that shit for the time being. It's kind of advanced, and it's not like you have a lack of choice to get going with. So I'd recommend just going through all these kind of default shapes they've drawn in for you, kind of finding one you like. You're definitely spoiled for choice. So yeah, you can definitely find a cool one. So you can ignore all the yaw curve and the result shit for now, as well as all this sort of stuff. Just leave that. You probably want to leave DC filter turned on. Basically, it's a complicated physicsy thing, but it just kind of fixes a bit of a mistake that happens when you distort sometimes. So just leave it on, and can't be asked to explain how it works because it's difficult to explain without a diagram. Cool. So what we'll do, we'll start off. It's also worth noting at this stage, you've got the option of turning on kind of multi-band mode. So you can see up here, we've got the different bands. So you can kind of choose between how many bands you have in the first place. Somehow, can't remember how, whatever. But yeah, just kind of leave it as non-multi-band for now. But it's worth noting you can distort each kind of frequency range as and when you like, and you can also change the frequency range by dragging these dudes along. It's reasonably self-explanatory, but it's worth knowing you have the multi-band stuff there. But now for our particular sound we're working with, because it's just a simple bass sound with just some low frequency content, we don't have to use multi-band. However, the main time you would want to use multi-band is if you're processing a whole track or you're processing a sound with quite a big range of frequencies. In general, you want to distort the bass quite a lot, but you don't really want to distort the highs that much. It's quite complicated as to why that tends to work out well. But that's just a good general rule of thumb. Now, obviously, it's not like a die-hard rule you must obey, but it's the best way to kind of get going at least, and then you can kind of work from there. But that's the main reason you can kind of use multiband, is to distort the lows kind of more aggressively than the highs. When you distort the highs, the sound tends to fall apart a bit. So anyway, cool. Because we've just got a nice and simple bass sound, we're going to turn off the multiband setting, and then what we're going to do is going to get going with by kind of choosing a sound we like, and then after we've chosen it, we're going to play with potentially 2 sliders. This one is the drive, which is kind of like if you kind of pull the drive up and down, you can see how the diagram changes. So each particular one you choose, the more drive you do, the more it kind of morphs it. So it tends to be the higher you drive it, the more aggressive it is, the more noticeable, the more it sounds like quote unquote distortion. And then some of the settings, I wonder if I can find one to illustrate it. There you go. Some of the kind of presets have a style section, which is basically, it's like another parameter of the distortion. So there's quite a lot you can play around with in each particular one. So yeah, we're going to get going and choose one using our example that we like the sound of. And I've no idea whether it's going to be subtle or aggressive yet. We're just going to see how things go. So turn it off first of all, and then just kind of fuck about. Cool, I like that. I ended up going for something a little bit more kind of subtle, just kind of giving it a bit of thickness, kind of adding a bit of warmth, a bit of saturation, not going for something too aggressive, just because I thought it quite suited it. And you might have been noticed the settings I was playing with was the drive. I was pressing this bypass on and off just to kind of turn the distortion off and on, just to kind of A-B it to the kind of pre-distortion bit. Then I was also had a bit of a go with this kind of mix slider as well, which determines how much of the kind of distortion is mixed in with the original sound. So of course 100 is full distortion, well, the fully wet signal, whereas right at the bottom is the fully dry signal with like no distortion on. So yeah, I quite like the results so far. Make it a bit thicker, a little bit more kind of quote unquote fat. But yeah, it's cool shit. Could leave it as that for now. Obviously you can kind of tweak it a lot more, but yeah, should be cool. I think that's pretty much it for the distortion. Yeah, you know what? Let's add another layer of distortion. Wait, how long's the video? 9 minutes. Yeah, let's have another quick fuck about with some more distortion, just to see if we like the result. So let's turn on stage 2 and just have a go. Cool, I like that. Some more kind of subtlety. Just made it a little bit thicker. Added some more subtle interest, which is just what you want. Yeah, so that's it for distortion. I'll ignore the filter bit for now. Don't need to worry about that. And yeah, should be cool. And it's worth knowing, one final little thing. You can adjust the kind of the volume of the incoming and the outgoing signal with the pre and the gain sliders here. So it's worth knowing in case for whatever reason you need to kind of crank up or turn down the incoming or outgoing signals. But yeah, that's it for the distortion bit. Next time we're going to do a little bit more kind of filtering and then the convolve, then we might do some dynamics and some delay. Should be cool. Yeah, big multiplier. Boom, boom, yeah. Video time, stop, record.